Coincidentally, a recent theme of several of my videos lately has been that of what could have been, what we could have had. And one of those things is a Batman movie starring Ben Affleck, which I have to say I really wanted. I really liked his Batman. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice did have its problems. I generally like the movie, but I think Ben Affleck's performance as Bruce Wayne, Batman, is the strongest aspect of that film, and his Batman was darker and far more hardcore than some of the more recent cinematic interpretations of the character at that time. And I like his Batman, and I think he deserved his own movie. Wonder Woman, Superman, Aquaman, and The Flash all got their own DCEU movies, and I think it was a big mistake that Ben Affleck never got to play the role in his own standalone feature film. So let's learn a little bit more about what the film would have been like. This article is from cosmicbook.news. Ben Affleck's Batman movie had Mr. Freeze and heavy Arkham Asylum focus. Ben Affleck's cancelled Batman movie reportedly would have featured Mr. Freeze and leaned heavily into Arkham Asylum, adding a new detail to the long-scrapped DC project that also had Joe Manganiello lined up as Deathstroke. So this film was going to be more of a psychological thriller as much as a superhero action movie. I think that's obviously appropriate to Bruce Wayne as a character, and to be fair, we did get a movie quite like that with the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, but that film leaned more into the noirish detective genre. Mr. Freeze was in Ben Affleck's Batman movie. The new info comes from Hollywood artist and illustrator Skylar Pinkerton, who shared the details on social media while replying to a fan. Pinkerton said he worked on previs material for the film and claimed that the cancelled Batman movie included Mr. Freeze. He described Freeze as a small part in the story, but said the character was more than a cameo. Pinkerton also said the Mr. Freeze material was beautiful and haunting. He added that the movie was heavily tied to Arkham Asylum, with multiple villains set to appear. Yeah, I'd imagine that it would have been a very different interpretation of the Mr. Freeze character when compared to the campy Arnold Schwarzenegger version from Batman and Robin. Rob Richardson previously pointed to a darker Arkham story. Pinkerton also referenced comments previously made by cinematographer Bob Richardson, who was attached to the movie. Back in 2019, Richardson said he wanted to shoot Batman with Affleck and confirmed there was a script, though he said it was not a script people loved at the time. He also said Affleck was continuing to rework it. Richardson explained that Affleck's take was heading into the insanity side of Batman. He said the story would have gone darker than past versions and focused more on who Batman was internally, including what parts of him were sane and what parts were not. He also said Affleck was moving into Arkham and into a place where everyone was bad. I have to say, I'm having trouble imagining what kind of film this would have been in comparison to so many other superhero movies. Certainly a very unique take by the sounds of it. It sounds completely divorced in tone from the other DCEU movies, which, as you probably know, just got lighter and more comedic as the DCEU film series went on. The DCEU just started to resemble the Marvel Cinematic Universe in terms of its look and feel. And that's sort of where we are now with the DC universe, the James Gunn interpretation. The films feel very MCU-ish, you know. Say what you will about the DCEU and in particular the Snyder vision of that film series, but in the beginning, with films like Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and the original Justice League, those films definitely had a highly stylized visual and tonal identity that Snyder was going for. So they were definitely unique films, to say the least. And I really liked what Snyder was doing with those movies. I definitely would have liked to have seen at least another Justice League film, but I would have settled for having Ben Affleck have his own standalone Batman movie. I think that would have been fantastic. And of course, Henry Cavill deserved a second Superman movie as well. I think by the end of the DCEU, the films just weren't good. Wonder Woman 1984, the second Aquaman movie, The Flash, they weren't great movies. They just felt very generic. They'd become very Marvel-esque. And I feel that they'd lost the darker edge that the early DCEU movies had. But yeah, anyway, this movie sounds like it could have been a little bit of a horror movie as well, exploring just how broken Bruce Wayne is as a man. I mean, this is a man who is deeply traumatized by witnessing his parents being murdered in front of him as a child. So he would later turning his fear of bats into a symbol and an identity that he would embrace and strike terror into the hearts of the criminals of Gotham. Within Bruce Wayne is this deep-seated thirst for revenge that he can never really satiate. And so he just goes out into the night with his cape and cowl and tries to be this dark avenger, this dark knight. So his origin story, his tortured past, and the toll that all of that has taken on him psychologically, this man would be carrying some significant scars that motivated him to become the Dark Knight persona. And yeah, there was a lot there to explore, in particular, within the context of Arkham. And I think it's there was always that fine line. It was explored a little bit in the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, but also in particular with the Dark Knight movie with Heath Ledger as the Joker, that there's this fine line between Batman and his villains. The Joker appears to be outwardly deranged and crazy, which he is, but Batman's crazy is just is buried underneath the mask, but it's still there in many respects, and that was not fully unpacked in that movie, but it was definitely something to explore. It's a shame we never got to see this Ben Affleck Batman movie, because if you look at Batman v Superman in particular, I think we saw a very different and quite interesting take on Batman when compared to, say, the Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale Batman films. The Christian Bale Batman was one who strove to be a bit more principled and contained and more cerebral. But Affleck's Batman was older, messier, grittier, more hardened by life, more cynical, and possibly more morally flexible. But that's what we could have had. But instead, we got the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman in 2022. I still think it's a decent enough film, but which one would you have preferred? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Computing Forever. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.